Okay. All right, you guys can hear me now. Hopefully I won't drop this. So my name's John Nelson. I'm with the Illinois Department of Revenue. I'm going to briefly go over searching for and applying for state positions. And then we'll hand it off to John for he can go into in-depth about both private and public sector searches. One of the key things about state positions are there's several. We are hiring right now. We're still hiring even without a budget. 2, if you do not work with a counselor or if you try to do this all on your own, we see about 100% failure rate of first-time applicants. 100% failure rate. And it has nothing to do with how smart you are, how sharp or how educated. We're working with government forms. And has anyone ever experienced filling out a government form? Hopefully just say you did your taxes. That's a government form. Yeah, they're clear as mud. So let me go through this rather quickly. Where did John go? Yes. Do you have a clicker? That'll help me from running around back. Or do we set it down here? Oh, there it is.
If it's connected to yours.
It should be connected to the computer. Or maybe not. I'll run around to the other side and I'll talk to you as we go through this. So, I apologize for standing back here and walking through you on this one. First thing I want to acknowledge is, yes, looking for a job's hard time. And a lot of us that have been in the employment business for a while, we forget what it's like to actually look for a position. Sorry, my clicker's off. When we talk about Department of Revenue and with the state in general, the number one thing we need to think about is getting our foot in the door. The Department of Revenue, I went to school, I have a master's in history. I've never done math since high school. And I was in high school in the 80s at one point. But I knew the way the state hires is qualified state employees first, everyone else second. So my plan was to get into the state as a state employee, any way, any shape or form, and then I can promote up into my field. And my field's recruiting. I came in as a revenue tax specialist, and I used that as my door in to promote on up into the fields. I assume a lot of us have a very strong education and work history. We just want to think about getting our foot in the door, because then you're always going to be a qualified state employee that we're going to hire ahead of everyone else. Any questions on that basic idea? Because it's absolutely key to your success. One of the great things about the state of Illinois is the large majority of our jobs are 37.5-hour work week. Not 40, 37. That's full-time with benefits and retirement. Typically, when I first started, my workday was 7:45 to 4:15. Can you imagine being done at 4:15 every day on your way home? Plus you get the weekends, holidays, and vacation time. One good thing, I'll be honest, you're never going to be rich with the state. There's no Mercedes at the end of the line here. But you can have a very comfortable life and a good retirement and have time to do what you want to do. So let's get right into it. Looking at successful ideas for applying for the state. If you look at the state website right now, it says you have a less than 1% chance of being hired, less than 1%. That's really discouraging. What I want us to look at are a couple positions or a lot of positions that improve that ability. Right now there's a revenue tax specialist trainee position. Most of these are open in Sangamon County, Springfield, but there are positions here in Chicago. A revenue tax specialist trainee only requires a bachelor's, any bachelor's. Like I said, history. Right now in Sangamon County we have 50 openings. We have less than 50 applicants. At the beginning of this month, when I asked for them how many applicants do I have, we have less applicants than openings. This is one of those positions that everyone doesn't look at and think, I went to school to be HR. I went to school to be an engineer. I went to school to be something else. And you're never able to get hired on the state. Why? Because the state's hiring qualified state employees first, everyone else second. So in this case, if I had an engineering degree and I came in as a revenue tax specialist, they would hire me as a state engineer before they'd hire someone that's head of Caterpillar. Why? The head of Caterpillar, yes, they're more experienced than me, but I am a qualified state employee that's applying for that job. That's why this type of title is so good to get into. Does anyone here have a degree in accounting, business administration, or finance? You guys are, I like you a lot. Because we also have these other positions. These require those types of degrees. Right now in Chicago, we are hiring for an account, what we call revenue auditor. It requires a degree in one of those 3 fields, plus 21 hours of accounting credit. What's so great about the revenue auditor, and I'll get to that later, it'll come up later, but I want to touch on it right now. Yes, it starts in the high 40s or high 50s, depending on what you're currently making. It automatically promotes up to $99,800 a year at a 37.5-hour work week. So, like I said, you're not going to be super rich, but we're talking about a 6-figure salary for 37.5 hours a week of work. That's great. And if you're like me and don't have that degree in accounting, if you come in, work for the state, some of us are still doing tuition reimbursement, we will pay for you to go back to school and get that accounting degree if you want. We offer tuition reimbursement. Now, if you do not have state, I apologize, this is a slightly older version. If you do not have a 4-year degree, all of these positions here do not require a 4-year degree. They require the equivalent of a high school degree, and they all pay very well. All of these positions start in the 30s. Most of them go up to about 50+ thousand a year. Now remember, the goal for most of us is to get into the state. Because remember, if we come in as an office clerk, this is the lowest entry-level position we have, and you want to promote up, or if you say, I'm going to take advantage of the state, and this is what one person did. He came in as an office clerk with a high school education. We paid for him to get his degree. He got a degree in accounting. He's now a revenue auditor on his way to make a 6-figure salary. We've paid for all of his education, and he's continued to get pension, health benefits, and pay throughout the whole time. These are some of the best positions to get into. Yes, sir? That's a great point. There are if you have an overseas degree, it does need to be certified. I'll give you a handout here at the end. I apologize for not getting out early. I should have done that while we're waiting for this. And this is an important one. If you have a degree from a non-American university, you must get it certified. We will recognize your education, and we will give you credit for it, but it has to be certified by a company that certifies degrees, because some foreign degrees will come over as a bachelor's, they might come over as a master's, or they might come over as associates. So we do need that certification, but once it's certified, we don't care where you got that degree from, we just care that it's been confirmed that it is a degree. Very good question. Yes, sir?
You say you're going to pay for the education, but you mean 2 years education or 4 years education?
It's on a case-by-case basis. We approve it based off of where you're at and what you're trying to do. For instance, we're not going to pay for you to get a degree in fish management, which there is a degree, such a degree. We will probably pay for you to get a degree in accounting, maybe IT program, or something that'll benefit us. And what type of degree? It doesn't really matter. We sit down and talk to you. Right now, we're paying for one woman to get her master's. We're paying another person to go back and get his bachelor's. I think it'll be actually his second bachelor's. We paid for another person that had a bachelor's that wanted to be an accountant, but it was cheaper and easier for him to go for a master's. So instead of having him go back to get a second bachelor's, we had him do a master's degree. And yes, we will do associates as well, but we tend to push people towards a 4-year degree because a 4-year degree opens up so many other doors. One thing with the state, you can never be overqualified. Never be overqualified. We really only care about a few things when you apply. Do you have the required experience? Do you have the required education? If you answer yes to those two, then we're interested in you. We don't care if you're overqualified or not. True story, we had a doctoral published rocket scientist, could speak 4 languages, incredibly smart, well published. They came in as a revenue tax specialist. Why? They were way overqualified, but once again, qualified state employee first, everyone else second. They came in here, now that I believe they're working at the nuclear power plant in Clinton, because they wanted to be an engineer. There were just tons of guys like me with a history degree that realizes it's not as marketable as I thought, that went back to school by the state to get an engineering degree. Good question. Other questions? All right, let's keep going because I definitely want to get to John's presentation. For the accounting degrees, any of these 5 positions are ones that we definitely want to look at. Please reach back out and let me know if you're interested in any of these, because we're always hiring and we're always having problems to hire. Last year we hired, I believe, 12 auditors in Chicago. We had 70 applicants. That it sounds like a lot of people went home, but when you really look at it, that's pretty much a 1 in 7 chance of landing a job. Those are pretty good percentages. I'm going to skip past those. So, how many people have been to the state website to look for positions? Anyone? All right. So, the very first thing I want to point out is this is what the state of Illinois website looks like. It's from, the web address is work.illinois.gov. Everything's spelled out. Work.illinois.gov. Big blue button, job postings. You definitely want to look at it. The other key thing that you definitely want to look at, this is where you get the application. It's under forms. If you're using an outdated application, we will shred your application and not accept it. So whenever you're applying, and typically in layman's terms, we're applying to get a grade for the job. When you're applying for a grade, make sure you're using the most current form. How many here are Mac users? Okay, so for everyone else, you can probably open this document. For Mac users, you might want to go to a public library. I don't know why, but it's been very difficult for Macintosh users to open it. It is an editable PDF, and it's been, a lot of people have had problems trying to open it, especially on a Macintosh. If you want, once again, you can always try to reach back out to me. My contact information I'll leave here, and I can try to help you out. But this is the #1 website for state employment. When you look at state opportunities, leave everything checked. Do not disqualify yourself from anything. Why? See this vehicle maintenance right here? I can't change the oil in my car. I have no business doing car work. But the state of Illinois, Department of Revenue, we have a vehicle maintenance person. What they do is on Excel sheets, they track our vehicles, the miles, where they're going, who's driving it, when they do need an oil change, when the tires need rotated, and all of that. I can do that job. I can track stuff on the sheet. But if I uncheck this box because I assumed vehicle maintenance means I can't do it, I would have never known of that job opportunity. So leave all of these checked and then read the job descriptions to see if you can do that job. The only boxes I suggest you unselect are they give you options of both counties and departments. Only select the county that you're willing to work in, not where we live, but where you're willing to work in. They will only show you positions from those selected counties. It doesn't matter if it's Department of Revenue or the Juvenile Justice Commission. They will show you all those jobs, but it's still going to be limited to the counties. So I would highly suggest only select counties you're willing to work in. Any questions of the basic job search here? Now, these jobs, I want to tell you a little bit about this. You notice over here it says a closing date. It's something you don't have to worry about. This closing date is only for state employees to exercise their right to the position. What this is really telling you is, if you see there's a lot of account technicians, maybe they're hiring a lot of them, that's sort of giving you the idea, I need to go and get a grade for this title. What the closing date really means is state employees have up until that day to exercise their state right to be a state employee first, everyone else second. After this date, though, what is important to you is at any given moment after this date, we can call for an interview list from the general public at any given date. I have a position that closed over 2 months ago. We haven't asked for that list yet. So everyone that's applied within those last 2 months are still eligible to be interviewed. So it tells you it gives you a little warning, but the reality is you can keep applying. And what we ultimately want to do with the state is get grades for positions we're interested in, capable of doing. Because our grade is good for a year. If you get a grade for an account technician in Cook County, you've applied to every single account technician job in Cook County for 1 year. And that literally could be hundreds of jobs. It's important to get that grade. So, how do we get the grade, and why is this explaining the state application process. One, you have to fill out the application. It's a very complicated document where the smallest mistakes can cause you to be disqualified. Such as everyone, where is Chicago State University located at? Downtown Chicago, right? Yeah, Chicago State University is in Chicago. We can't assume anything. If you put on your application Chicago State University and nothing else, we will disqualify you because we ask for a full address. The application has to be filled out perfectly. Once you filled out the application, almost everyone either has to test or we will grade your application to give you a grade. We'll look at it and say, does he have everything we need? He gets an A, B, or C. Here's where those grades come in. We have to exhaust the grade pool above you before we offer you a job. Yes, you got a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
You have some option in the application. Can I add attach for my resume?
You can. The question was, can I attach my resume to the application? Yes, but you must fill out the application first. What we do not accept is application where it just says see attached resume. The application has to be filled out, and then you can attach your resume for additional information. With the testing here, what I mean by we must exhaust the grade pool above you, I have a history degree. Let's say I'm applying for an auditor, and the person next to me has a CPA. We both go in and take a test, and I just get lucky, and I get an A, and that CPA goes in there and says, you know what, I know how to do taxes. These questions are all wrong, and they get a B. We both go to interview, and he scores a perfect on the interview, and I barely make it through the interview, okay? So he is the better candidate. They have to offer me the job first before him, even though he did better in the interview, even though he has a better background, because I'm in a higher grade pool. By the very first measure of the state, I have a greater aptitude to learn the position than he does. That's where the grade pool comes in. That's why we want to get into the A grade pool. Yes, sir.
Sorry, I mean the test or the application processes?
It depends. Some of them you'll have to go take a test. Some of them they will look at your application and give you a grade from it.
So if your application is perfect, that's, excellent.
Each titles are different. There's what's called TRAX and testing titles, and I will hand out the handout here at the end. Meant to get it to you beforehand, such as the revenue auditor, the one that goes up to $100,000 a year or just under it. That one they will only give you a grade based off your application. They look at it, say, does he have XYZ on this application? You get a grade. Versus that revenue tax specialist, in essence, your application is applying to take the test. And then you go into the Thompson Center in downtown Chicago, and you sit in front of a computer and you do a multiple choice test. And that test will give you a grade for the tax specialist, or your application for the auditor will give you a grade. And it varies by position from position. Yes, sir?
How long time between the filled application to get take a test?
That's a great question. So if it's one that you can test, you guys can go downtown Monday through Thursday and just walk in and test for all of those. If it's and when you test, when you finish that computer, you're going to get a grade that day. They will actually tell you to wait at the computer. When they dismiss you, they hand you a grade. And then you've applied for all of those positions in the counties that you've looked for 1 year. If it's one where we have to read your application with a human and give you a grade, it can be several weeks. Right now, I think they're at about 6 weeks. About 2 years ago, when we were severely understaffed, it was a year. So we've got a lot better now, but it can vary. And officially, there is no timeline for a grade when we're reviewing your application. Good question.
I have a question.
Yes.
I think I have a disconnect. So you said to not uncheck any of the boxes. You said keep them all checked, right?
That's correct.
So then how many tests are you taking?
You will take the test for the titles that you're interested in. So when you're doing that job search for those jobs, you leave all those boxes checked, so then you can see the opportunities that are out there. And then you might see, oh, look, here's a vehicle maintenance planner. Let me look on that. I do qualify for that. I think I can do that job. Then you would probably go and take that test, if it's a testing title. You might read it and say, you know what, that is definitely not the job for me. I can't do it. then you probably wouldn't test for that one. But we have people that will test for dozens of jobs. I actually applied for 80 jobs before I got my last promotion. And I was a state employee. It made me feel very small, but we'll go beyond that part. So yes, it's going to take time. It takes a lot of time and a lot of work, but it can really pay off. Very good question.
So in the application, it will tell you if you need the test or no?
You will always need the application. Sometimes you will need a test, sometimes you won't.
Through the application, they will tell you if you need the test or no?
On the job posting, it will tell you. At the very bottom, it does.
The income, how much the...
It will tell you the income on the job posting as well. Yes. Hold on. Sir. Survey questions? Yes, sometimes they do. That's a great point. You are actually not a plant, but sometimes we send out survey questions. These need to be answered with the exact same detail as your CMS 100. The thing I see most often are people, instead of filling out our forms, they'll say see attached resume, see attached form. And the simplest version to describe it is, if you are not invested enough to fill out our application, why should we grade your application to give you a grade? If you're not willing to fill out our form, why should we be willing to interview you? So it is vitally important to make sure you fill out the application and any other questionnaire we send instead of just saying see attached, or else there's a strong chance they will not review it at the end.
How many times we can apply for the CMS?
Good question. You can apply for as many times as you want, and it's never held against you. Once you get a grade, that grade is good for 1 year. Let's say you want to get an A and you go and test and you get a B. And like, I'm one question away. I know I can get an A. You can retest in 30 days. You can retest in 30 days. You can test, you can send your application in as many times as you want. I highly suggest, though, once you get a grade, especially once you get an A grade, leave it. There is no difference between a perfect and an A by 1 point. We only say you're an A candidate, you're a B candidate, or you're a C candidate. Once you get the best grade that you're capable of getting, let it lie, because that grade's good for a year. And once again, you have then applied for every job with that title for a year in Cook County. So that can be a lot of opportunities. Does that help answer? Excellent. Yes? On the testing, and I don't want to get in great detail because I want to give John plenty of time. On the testing, you're going to have, there will be a test guide. We almost always ask about math, general English skills, such as put these 3 sentences in logical order. There belongs here a semicolon, comma, hyphen, or period. We'll ask some of those. Each test for a title is slightly different, and there are guides, and once again, feel free to reach back out to me. My information is here. I apologize we don't have much more time for it. But there are guides to help you out. They're not sample tests. There are no sample tests. No. Mainly because we use the same questions over and over again. So if we send them out, then you can memorize them. One important thing about state testing, this is slightly ahead, but I want to get through as much information as quickly as possible, is you need to think like a state employee. I'm not saying think like you're asleep at work, because we don't allow that. But the big thing is, as a state employee, you can set precedents for the entire state. If you've noticed everything I've said here, I don't guarantee anything. I've never said anything absolute. For example, let's just pretend you're a receptionist at a building that does not allow animals. Someone comes in with the service animal, and you say, sure, come on in, we'll help you, because that seems like the right thing to do. Well, as a receptionist at a state building, you might have just set state policy for service animals for the entire state. Do you have that authority as a receptionist? No, you don't. So, and that's how you need to look at the state questions. Thinking, I will be a representative of a multi-billion-dollar organization that what I say can set policy. Do I have the authority to do that? No. For that example I gave you, the best thing to do is to have the person wait at your desk and then go ask your supervisor what's the correct thing to do. Because hopefully your supervisor knows or has that authority. And that's one of the biggest things on those tests that a lot of people struggle with, especially if you've been working in your past, because normally when we work in our own business or private sector, we have a lot of responsibility and authority. That authority changes with the state. Very good questions. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What are the age limits?
None.
None?
There are no age limits. There are no age limits. This is one of the wonderful things about the state. We cannot prejudice you against anything. We only care about two things. Do you have the education, and do you have the experience needed? Sometimes there's no education requirement. Sometimes there's no experience requirement. We're saying we're interested in, do you have the requirements for the job? And we don't care how long ago it's been. That's a very good question. If you got that accounting degree in 1821, which I don't think accounting degrees exist, and if you're still alive from then, you're the oldest man ever, but we don't care. Because all we know is that you have that degree. You have the requirement that we're looking for. We don't care where you got it. We don't care when you got it. We just care that you have it. That's why the state is an excellent opportunity. Yes, sir. Is it a time test? Yes, they are. Test varies between 1 hour to 3 hour longs for the tests. Each test, when you look it up, it will tell you how long it's going to be. You can always call CMS on that work.illinois.gov website. There's a link about testing, and they'll tell you how much time you have to test when you need to show up. Such as for the revenue auditor, revenue tax specialist, it's a 3 hour test. You have to start before 12:30. They cannot let you start at 12:31 because it's not enough time to test. So I highly suggest once you've identified the titles that you're interested in, if they're testing ones, call CMS and double check. Or you can always reach out to me. Once again, my contact information will be here. And when we switch speakers, I will hand out some more information. Yes?
Excuse me, you're always talking about experience and education.
Yes.
What if one is much greater than the other? For example, what if you have a wealth of experience, but your education isn't as much?
For the large majority, there's sort of a sliding scale.
It's unbalanced in a way.
Yeah. Yes, it's unbalanced. So like if you have a ton of experience and very little education, some of those job titles will say needs a 4-year degree, a bachelor's degree, or the equivalent of 10 years experience. Some of them will say that. Some of them will say must have a bachelor's degree or must have an associate's. If it's a must, you have to have that degree. There's no way around it. If it's a or with experience equivalent, then yes, they will look at it on a case-by-case basis. Once again, one of the great things is you can come into the state at a position that is an entry-level position despite your experience. The state will pay for you to get your degree. Now, all of a sudden, you have someone with a ton of experience and a degree. Instead of sort of going step by step, you might jump from one place to the next. Good question. Yes, sir.
The experience is overseas experience.
You have the experience. That's all that we care about.
How do you measure it? You need the official letters, certified?
Nope.
What do you do?
What we need is when you fill out this application, you sign it, and it is a legal state application. You are attesting that everything on this application is to the best of your knowledge and memory. So if you write on this application, I used to be a manager of 30 people in Manila. I'm from the Philippines, so I really like Manila. It's a fun place. It doesn't matter. I'm saying I have that experience. They're going to give me credit for it. Now, we're going to expect you to be able to perform that job with that level of experience. If I said I have 20 years managing 30 people from Manila, and I go on day one, and I don't know how to manage anyone, that's going to be a problem. But we're going to say, look, you have that experience, we're going to give you credit for it. And volunteer work counts. Volunteer work counts. You don't have to get paid. Volunteer work counts. If you don't get paid, please let us know it's volunteer, but it counts. We care about that you have the experience, not where, not when. Do you have the experience? Do you have the education? Not where, not when, but do you have it? That's what we care about. Yes?
If you get the master degree, it's good to show it or just stay in the bicycle?
It's always good to show it. Show everything you've earned. Because once again, unlike some other areas with the state, you can never be overqualified. The position I came into only required a bachelor's and no experience whatsoever. I had several years experience in a master's. They didn't care. They just said, did I have the experience? Well, actually, there was no experience needed. So they just said, did I have the education? I had a bachelor's or higher. Yes, I was eligible to be interviewed. The opportunity is more because more titles. Since you can never be overqualified, you can apply for all the titles that require GED. You can apply for all the titles that require bachelor's and all the titles that require master's. So there's more opportunity that way. But it doesn't mean if you're applying for a title that only requires a bachelor's, you don't get any extra points for having a master's. Because once again, we only care about not how much above do you have, but do you have the requirements needed. That way it can't be held against you. No one gets preference that way. Yes, sir, then I'll come to you in the blue. Yes.
Do they care about gaps in the resume?
No, we do not. State is very different from the private sector. The state is very different from the private sector. We do not care about gaps. What we care about is, do you have the experience and do you have the education? Gaps don't matter. Yes, sir.
I have the bachelor degree in chemical engineering and it is get it from the educational evaluation.
Okay.
But my master degree is not get it from the refused certificate.
So, and this, go ahead.
Yeah. Master degree, that's it.
The master's degree we would not recognize because it hasn't been certified by EES. Is that who? EC? ECE. Yes, thank you. ECE. We would recognize the bachelor's right off the bat. We would not give you credit for our master's. Now, there are ways to sort of work around it. Let's say you come in with us and you still want to get credit for that master's in chemical engineering. You want to get back into that field. There is a chance you could go get tuition reimbursement, go back to, say, University of Illinois at Chicago, and transfer in those masters. Whatever credits that college accepts is now certified. So if a college, if an accredited college accepts it, we typically accept it as certification. I normally don't bring that up because it's more expensive to get back into college than it is to certify. But in your case, that might be a viable option. And I only want to talk a few more minutes before John comes up here. Other questions on this? All right, let me see if I can get through at least this slide here, and then I'm going to hand it off to John.
You made further like which company in the state?
I will hand you, I'll provide a handout of the list of companies that they are accepting that do equivalencies. There's ECE, there's about 7 or 8 that we accept in addition to accredited universities. So here's an example of why the state is so hard to apply for. What we have up here is page 1 of the state application. On the top I have where it says position title and option. So let's just pretend we want to apply for, and this is from work.illinois.gov, we're applying for the Senior Public Service Administrator. That's the title that we want to apply for. Notice it says OPT 2A. With the state, we cannot assume anything. We cannot assume anything. So if you put on your application, the correct title is Senior Public Service Administrator. If you abbreviate administrator, ADIM, admin, you will never get graded, ever. Why? Because the people that are looking at your application to grade it, and this is the questions between testing and grading, if they're grading your application, they have a list of titles that they can grade for. On that list is Senior Public Service Administrator. What is not on that list of titles for them to grade for is Senior Public Service Admin. If that title that you write down there is not on their list, they will not grade it. And we do not abbreviate on our list. That is why it's so vitally important to make sure you write the whole title out. You notice it said OPT 2A? That stands for option. That's the one place where you put the option. Option 2A, typically the options mean that there's a specialization to it. Such as 2A might be, has to deal with accounting. A lot of times you'll see option SS, which means must be Spanish speaking. So options will vary. It's secret code. Like, do we have any programmers in here? No? Good. So it's like computer programming. I don't understand any of the code. But it makes sense to a programmer. SSN, When you apply at the state, it has to be there in full, because once again, we can't assume anything. So if you put your typical, a lot of people like to be careful and say 3x, 2x, and your last 4 digits. They will never grade it, because they know there's no social security number that starts with the letter X. It has to be on there. Yes?
2A, from where 2A?
2A came from, right there. That's where it says option 2A. So if there's an option, it will show option on the posting. County of choice, it has to be the county it's located, the job's in. I highly suggest Cook County for most of you. And the last one I really want to cover is under availability. There are a lot of jobs that say training or trainee. If it has the word trainee anywhere on the posting, you must select box A. Revenue auditor, trainee, very good title. Revenue tax specialist, trainee, very good title. There's a child welfare specialist, trainee. They're very good titles to get into. You have to select box A. Most of the time everyone says B because that opens up all the doors unless it's trainee. Even if the title says part-time, temporary, summer trainee, you have to ignore all those other words, see the word trainee in there, and select box A. If it's a trainee title and you don't have box A selected, you're automatically disqualified. This is the attention to detail the application asks for. Yes?
Number 7 over there.
Yes.
Not the county of your preference, that's the county of the job.
County of the job, where the county's located in. For the most part, when you look at this, there'll be Cook County, and then it'll say Cook Zone 1, 2, 3, or 5. Unless you're applying specifically for a job title that said Cook County Zone 5, just select Cook County, because that's the whole county for you.
For that one, they have to select always A for this one.
For a trainee title.
Training.
If it says trainee on it, you have to select A.
But otherwise you could select either one.
Otherwise, you can select B. A lot of people will make their application a template, and they'll just leave B selected, and then they'll forget to select A when they apply for a trainee and get disqualified. There are a lot of titles that are not trainee titles I highly suggest looking at, but just be cognizant that if you apply for a trainee title, it has to be box A. I want to finish in about 2 minutes, so give John some time here. So let me, I'm going to sort of jump ahead and show you the whole thing. Education. If you have an international education, we need at least city and nation. And then you can attach your ECE or your certification, a copy. Please keep your originals. They cost a lot of money. We'll take a copy. If it's a United States education, we need everything in there. In this case, we need the full name of the school. We can't say UIS or CSU or anything else. It has to be the full name of the school. You have to put a U next to the school name, whether international or not, to indicate undergraduate or graduate level. Full address. It is the number of hours you earned at the school. If you have an international education that's been certified, the certification breaks down the hours and courses. And we need this filled out exactly as you see it. This is a drop down. In general, if it does not have the exact degree you have, pick the one closest to it. If you had a degree in xenobiology and they gave you a ZB and it was a bachelor's, it's probably equivalent to a BS or a bachelor's in science. So pick the one closest. Typically, if it starts with the letter A, it's associates. Letter B, it's a bachelor's. Letter M, it's a master's. Other letters are typically doctoral. But it has to be here. Anything short of this will disqualify your education, or if you do not include the international certification, it's like you do not have the degree, and if the job you're applying for requires one, you've just been disqualified. Yes, at the end first.
If you get a master, you have to put the bachelor from here and the master also, both?
You need to put both. And the reason I say put both is you're going to make a template out of this. It's going to help you. In some of the higher level titles, we will only interview people with masters. If we one time we had 30 applicants for one job, we're not going to interview 30 people, so we said we'll interview everyone that has a master's. So I highly suggest put all your education in here and put all your work. You can never be punished for having more education or more work. You can always, though, lose credit for not putting it on. There's no such thing as overqualified or too long ago. So put it in there. You did the work. You have that experience. Make sure you get credit for it. Hold on. Yes, sir. I'll come back to you.
For international certificate, so you need ECE plus the copy of the certificate itself, or no, just ECE?
EC, they'll send you a sort of breakdown. And then I highly suggest send us copies. I personally, with my degrees are in the States, but I saved all my transcripts to the computer so I can just hit print over and over again when I need it. The state, for the large majority, do not require official transcripts. The large majority, there's that caveat I always throw in there. The large majority of the time, we do not require official transcripts.
So you just need a copy of the ECE?
ECE, yes. Or WS, or whoever you're using. And, I did have it in here. These are all of the companies, and I will give this to you in a handout, that do international certification. They do cost money, some of them quite a bit, but once again, it opens up several doors. Yes, sir?
I certificate from educational perspective.
They would look at it on a case-by-case basis then. They would look at it and try to determine if they can use that or not. Depending on how it's written out, there's a strong chance they would. But once again, as a representative of the state, I'm not going to say yes or no. It's on a case-by-case basis. Any other questions about sort of this looking for state jobs, the strategy, and then understanding the attention to detail needed on that application? That is the first step. Yes, sir, and then I'll come to you. Mm-hmm. The large majority of jobs that we would be looking at as non-state employees, they would do training for. Such as the revenue auditor I talked about and revenue tax specialist, we do all the training. Actually, the auditors, which I really like that title because they have jobs in LA and that's where I would like to move to. We bring them in for 8 weeks at a time. We house you up in Des Plaines and we house you, feed you, and give you a car, and we train you how to do that job. Because in theory, especially with the Department of Revenue, no one should know the internal tax processes of the state coming in. If you do, we've probably had a problem with our PR and a leak, and we need to relook at our processes. But for the most part, especially if you see the word trainee in the title, the expectation is you have the ability to learn the job, and we are going to train you to do it. Yes, sir. In doing the job search, unlimited. When you apply, two counties. I highly suggest Cook County, since we're all in Cook County right now, I mean it's here, and then either the next county with the largest populace or where you see that title that you really want, where you see it posted in the most. Such as nuclear engineer, which is a real job, we're not going to see in Cook County. We're going to see all the way down in Clinton, wherever they are. We'll say Clinton County. I could be wrong on the county. But so you would select those two counties for it. A good question. Other questions? Sir, in the blue.
The universities, you move from double university.
You need to list every university that you attended. In my case, I have 4 universities for 2 degrees. But I have 4. So, and if you can't get transcripts to all of them to help fill it out, to the best of your ability.
That's another question.
Yes.
For the interview, can you give us a hint in how they manage the interview?
I'm going to hand that off to John for the interviews because there's some really good techniques that he has that'll do that. Question, and then I'm going to hand it off to John. I went 5 minutes over. I apologize.
I have one quick question.
Yes.
You're mentioning these categories, job categories are mostly business. What if you're not interested in business?
Department of
There's other categories
Yes.
you didn't mention.
Department of Revenue has a lot of business categories, I'll be honest.
Yes.
The state of Illinois has pretty much every category you can imagine. Even the Department of Revenue, we have a lot. So yes, I focus on business because taxes. We have anyone, though, from file clerk mail opener, all the way up to our head of public PR. Because believe it or not, every once in a while the state might have some bad PR. So we have our communications department, we have a training department, we have an IT department, vehicle maintenance, and we have our physical maintenance department, those that handle all the office chairs and office supplies. That's just at the Department of Revenue. The state has significantly more as well. So I focus on revenue because they're the one that sent me here. But this information, I cannot stress enough. Because of how the state looks at people for applications, it is an incredible opportunity. Because I'm sure many of us have heard phrases, you're overqualified, which sometimes just means we think you're too old. Or they might say, oh, we don't recognize this degree. We don't recognize that experience. State's very significantly different in that case. And it opens a lot of doors. My contact information I'll leave in the back, and I'll give you guys a brief handout that shows you some of the other testing and stuff. With that, I'm going to hand it over to John. Thank you very much. John, my eyes don't let me turn this off.
Right off.
I think I'll put the handout in the back so I don't interrupt John's presentation.
That's okay.
Do you want me to switch you
Well,
over?
when it, yes, I'll put that.
Hello, how are you?
Let's do this right here first.
Thank you, Nelson. Thank you so much for coming and awareing our community about how exactly the state jobs work. Thank you so much.
Might as well get, I done it this way. Let's escape from here.
Do let us know if you have any questions. Assalamu alaikum. Sorry, I was a little late. My name is Nazneen Begum, and I'm a founder and CEO of a Global Executive Council. So this organization is basically more about empowering, that we educate and empower the community. We know that how exactly immigrants suffer when they come to this country. There are a lot of challenges, like we have our education, some experience from back home, and it is very difficult to navigate the resources in this country, how exactly the jobs work, what is the job market is all about. So these are some glitches we have, and every time we struggle, and sometimes what I see that people is stuck in their own world, in their whatever they're doing. Like some people are stuck in driving Uber or taxis. Though they have the good education, they never try to come out of it. So main goal of GEC is to help the community to come out and explore the resources. Thank you, John, for really helping our community and letting them know what are the various options they have. So you can contact him in person. He must have shared his information. And now we have Dr. John Calares. There is I should not say much about him. He is a professor for 39 years, and I think he has given his introduction. But just imagine the person who can advise the President of America, Mr. George Bush. So he must be good to advise us. So I really emphasize on listening to Dr. John Calares. He has immense knowledge and a vast experience. He can aware you about how exactly you can explore the world of business and also the job market. So do try to listen to him. And also, if you have any concern or any question, please call John anytime or reach out to his office. He's a very nice person who always tries to help our community. And whenever I call, in just a one call away, he tried to help us and he tried to reach out to the community. So thank you, John. I know there isn't much to say, require 1 hour if I start speaking about the John biography, but I don't want to say. Now here, John.
Thank you. Thank you, Nazneen. Excuse me. They asked me to put up there some qualifications, but again, folks, I'm not worried about it. Somebody's qualifications are only as good as the person can relate to others. Here's when I spoke in Washington. Here's with Art Nielsen, if anybody knows who that is. Anybody knows who Marcus Lemonis is? Marcus Lemonis, anybody? You do? Okay, tell the rest of the people later on. He and I will have a presentation here the 24th and 25th of the month. And here are some of my associates, the trainers that I have in our company. I have about 40 people in my company, but about 20 of them are trainers in their various fields. Why am I saying this? You may need to be trained in a specific area. John was talking about nuclear physicists. Yeah, we have somebody in that field as well. Okay? So I'm proud and I consider myself lucky that I have all these trainers here. And here's one of the pictures that usually that's the only introduction I accept now is, ladies and gentlemen, he was good enough to advise the President of the United States. I was 5 years. He should be good enough to advise us. So we'll talk about career planning and some business skills. Career planning is an area that when Abdullah and I were teaching at Keller Graduate School of Management, they gave me the course to teach, and the book they gave me I didn't like, so guess what happened? Oops. I wrote my own. And then they gave me another course in business to teach, and I didn't like that book either, on global business. Do you remember the course, Global Issues of Business 427? Yes. You probably taught it too. Okay? I wrote my own book as well. I've written several books, and the reason I'm saying this, folks, is not to brag by all means, but at least bear with me, you might find something useful today. I guarantee you will. Okay? So, in reference to career, how many of you are looking for a job? John, look at this. How many of you are looking for a job?
I'll take them all.
Okay, lesson number 1. How many of you are looking for a career? You want a job, go to McDonald's. Looking for a career, listen to what we told you, apply to positions like the ones that John has, and you folks will be okay. Are you following that? Lesson number 1. You're going to get quite a few lessons today on the spot. How many of you are, I asked that question before, but not allowed for everybody, business owners, executives, employees, managers? Anybody? No. So you all, okay, well, let's go on. Okay. What do you do, if I may ask? From a stick. Okay, okay. Stick. Wow. Okay. Let me not scream as much. Being a professor, we've learned to scream, talk loud, but I don't have to. Okay. So today's presentation will be, as I was saying before, twofold, about career and business. Now that I see that most of you are here for career planning, let's concentrate on that mainly. Okay. Anybody went to an interview recently? Anybody? Have you gone to an interview? You have. When you came out of the interview, did you feel like this? Oh God, what did I do? I messed up. Or like that? Or like that? What would it take for you to feel like this or like that? Oh yes, I got the job. Okay. However, folks, remember the following. Do you remember when John said that there are only few applicants and basically more jobs than the applicants, the applications they have? Which means, why would they select you and not somebody else? And that's exactly what I'm going to equip you with today. How can you differentiate yourself from others? Fair enough? Are you following that? Would you be interested in? Okay. Specifically in the public sector, for every position of middle management and above, there are 500 to 700 applications for one position, in case you didn't know that. Okay, you know that already. So why would they select you? And we'll talk about that also. Okay, so there are 4 areas that my book addresses: networking, interviewing, resume, and portfolio design. But today we'll limit ourselves to interviewing only, as I said. Now, the interviewing that we'll address today, unlike, bye John, we'll talk. Thank you. unlike even though we have different types of interviews, one-to-many, electronic interviews, video interviews, Skype interviews, and the like, today we'll concentrate ourselves on one-on-one, the basic skills that you need to acquire. Okay. You need to understand the things that you have to do before the interview, during the interview, and after. By the way, I noticed that some of you were taking pictures before of certain slides there. No need. I told the gentleman who put my summit. Okay, you guys can have it. I already gave it to him, so ask him. So he'll send you a copy. If he doesn't, I'll give him a business card. I'll get you a copy. So pay attention here and ask questions. Okay, so when you go to a dentist, I don't mean to remind you those pain that you went through the last time, okay? But you know that dentists have tools, right? When you call a carpenter to come home and do some work, he or she has tools also, correct? And what is this tool called? It's a hammer. Do carpenters only have one hammer? I think they have different ones, depending upon what the job is. Are you with me? What are your tools when you're interviewing for a job? Do you have tools? Yes, you do. And in case you don't know, here are most of them, the most common. Business cards. Your business card, folks, is a tool. It's not an advertising flyer. Quite a few people have thrown back colors, messages, discounts. No, that's for an advertising flyer. A business card should have the minimum professional limited information. Name, address, phone number, email address, and if you have a website too. Then a cover letter, resume, your interview, your portfolio, and if you have those tools proficiently designed and applied, trust me, you will get the job or the career that you want. Okay? So these are the 5 tools, and we'll talk about all of them today. However, the most important tool that is an intangible is your attitude. You're hired for attitude and paid for skills. Remember that. You're not hired for the skills. I can train you to do everything and anything. I can train a monkey to do the job that I want. But I cannot train a monkey to develop the attitude, the culture that I want in my business. So you're hired for the attitude that you showed during the interview. So John spoke about all these excellent jobs. However, and remember, he said, it doesn't matter. Once you have a 4 years degree, whether you have a master's or a PhD, it doesn't matter. So how do they differentiate between the person who has the 4-year degree and the person that has a 4-year degree and a master's? It's the interview that will differentiate you from everybody else. I hope you agree with that, right? Okay, good. If you agree to this, we can move on. Some additional tools that you need to bring to your interview is what Marcus Lemonis, remember I mentioned him a little while ago, he'll be speaking here on the 25th. By the way, is anybody interested in, I'm not going to say in going, in finding out what he charges to be there? $5,000. $5,000 per person. Okay. That's Marcus Lemonis. So, Marcus, and I mentioned that because have you seen his shows, The Prophet? He has what he calls, so you have the elevator pitch, right? You get in an elevator and you have about 20 seconds to convince him that your idea and your concept is good enough for him to spend time with you. If in those 20 seconds, and you are entering an elevator, if you have seen the show, some of you have, I noticed, you are nodding yes, okay? You know exactly what I'm talking about. Am I correct? Good. If you don't convince him in those 20 seconds, the door opens, says goodbye, adios, does not see you again. If he is convinced, he'll say, yes, let's go and talk. 20 seconds. Believe it or not, folks, you have the same opportunity and the same amount of time to create an impressive image to your interviewer. You're going to be in a networking activity, like you are tonight, in a networking event. If you don't impress me in the first 20 seconds, I'll move on to somebody else. I don't have time to waste, that people don't have time to waste. Your management style. They're going to ask you, Mohammed, we're hiring you as a manager. What is your management style? And if you said, well, let me tell you, yeah, management style, that's a good question. I know it's a good question, okay? You're just searching for an answer. So management style, well, yeah, sometimes I've managed as an authoritarian, some other times I've managed as baloney. Well, we'll teach you during your portfolio design. Let's say that this is your portfolio. You asked me this question. John, what's your management?
John, what's your management?
I'm delighted that you asked, because I've taken the time and I've defined my management style. And as you can tell, now I place it on the table. He's interviewing me. Are you following? The font is 28 or 30, 32, big enough for him to be able to see it from across the table, and I'm speaking it. I'm now reading it. However, the impression I'm creating is that the interviewer now says, aha, he anticipated the question, he prepared, and has a solution. That's exactly what they're hiring you folks for, the solution. They want you to solve their problems, okay? Another tool, the skills that you bring to the table. When people are asked, what skills do you bring to the company? Oh, I know accounting, I know computers, I know Excel, I know all, they align and outline about 4 or 5 different skills. That's good, but not good enough. By the way, you need to be going in about 10, 15 minutes, you're late. Okay, Professor? I just remind you, so anytime, I won't be offended, get up and go, okay? So, what we suggest, folks, is marry the skills to the job at hand. If you're going to go to my LinkedIn profile, you're going to see about at least 10 different articles on the topics that we're talking about right now, and one of them is keep the spotlight on the company's needs. And there's a spotlight, a bluish spotlight from the ceiling that goes down and has the picture of a company. Keep the spotlight on the company's needs, meaning I bring accounting, it can help you this way. I bring Excel, and I can help you this way. I bring PowerPoint, and I can help you this way. Are you following that? Make the marriage right there. Show them. Give it to them chewed, ready to swallow. Don't just tell them what you bring. That's what everybody else does. Now, if we hire you, how are you going to help the organization? Why should we hire you, in other words? Okay. Show them what you bring to the organization. A term that we're going to discuss extensively in a couple of minutes, and again, no need to take pictures. I see some of you are taking pictures now. You'll have this if you want, okay? One of the terms that we'll be talking about in a second, take care, yes, we'll do that, thank you, is transferable skills. My transferable skills will help your company in the following ways. What is the significance of the term transferable skills? Anybody? In other words, the skills that I've learned someplace else can be transferred to your company, therefore it's not costing you anything. Are you with me? My transferable skills can help your company in the following ways. Okay, key element to mention the word transferable. They will also ask you, what are your major accomplishments? With company XYZ, I accomplished this. With company ABC, I accomplished that. Where are you going to be in 5 years from now, in 2 years from now? Short, long-term objectives. Those are basic questions, folks, but we're going to get to specific questions in a moment. During the first interview, these are some of the basic questions, and please object if you don't think so, so we'll discuss something else. Is that a possible question? If Mark was a candidate, Mark, tell me about yourself. Is that a possible question? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay, how do you answer? Who wants to take it? Who wants to answer it? I know you're not ready, you're not in an interview, so try it. Who wants to try it, please? Yes. Your name? Elaine, thank you.
So I just need to say hi, my name is Malama Haley. I am a recent graduate from the University of Illinois Chicago
Okay. How does that sound? Good? Folks, let me ask you, with all due respect, isn't it true that all of that information is on the resume that I have in front of me? So you just repeated what I have already seen. As I said, with all due respect, and I love you dearly, okay? But that's what you're here for, to learn something new and effective. Now, who wants to ask me? John? Yeah, go ahead.
I want to tell you something about myself first.
Tell me, please, tell us.
My name is Ray Dolacher. I'm married. I have 3 kids. My name's Sophie Roy. Here. Stuff that is not.
Okay, and how old are the kids?
5 years old and 6.
Okay, you just almost eliminated yourself, and you better do very well in the interview, because what I'm thinking is the 5-year-old is going to get 6, or you're going to call in, I'm not coming in today. Think about it. Folks, there are so many tricks to the trade that you don't think about. However, we've seen it over and over and over. I mean, I've written a book, an academic book, and the university is applying it. Okay, so we've seen it all. Now, who wants to ask me that question? Because what I'll show you today, folks, is, one second.
Let me ask some scenarios for all these.
Oh, please do.
I'm a team player. I work with the others, with the colleagues. I like customer service. I can work under pressure. I don't mind to work long hours. I can solve my problems. I get my customers to leave happy from my work.
Very good. Did you folks hear that? I'm a team player, okay? I don't mind working long hours. I work with others very well, okay? So she tells me what she likes and what kind of a person she's going to be if we hire her. That's pretty good. However, there may be a better way. I want you to be the interviewer, and I'll be the candidate. Ask me, John. That's the.
I need to hire you today in this position.
Oh, then thank you. You hire me. No, the question is up there. Well,
Tell me about yourself.
I'll be delighted to, but what are you most interested in? My skills, my education, or my accomplishments? With company ABC, I accomplished that. With company XYZ, I accomplished that. With this company, I did that. With our university, I did that. Did you see how I brought her to ask me what I was prepared to talk about? My skills, my accomplishments, or my education? Hello? Are you following that? What we train our people to do is control the interview. And now I just controlled it, didn't I? I gave you 3 options. You went for it. Because let's face it, back to your reply, which was fairly okay. If I were the interviewer, I could have asked, yeah, that's all nice and dandy, but what skills do you bring to the company? Which means what you said probably went in one ear, out the other. Where when I cornered you in those 3 questions and you asked me one of the 3, now I have your attention. Are you folks following that? Let's see the next question. Why should we hire you and not somebody else? You know we're interviewing other people. You made it to the short list. They sugarcoat the pill they're about to give you. You made it to the short list. But why should we hire you and not your competition? There are 2 other people there. Are you better than they are? You better not say, yes, I am, because you know nothing about them. And the way you should reply is, there's no way I can talk about my competition because I know nothing about them. And it wouldn't be professional of me to do that. However, and now give them reasons to hire you. However, what I bring to your company is the skill, this skill that can help you that way, that skill that can help you that way, and so on. And it's proven through my accomplishments. Folks, remember, you go through a training, at least 2 days, full 8-hour training, and you learn all those things. When you walk into an interview, trust me. Another article on the LinkedIn profile is how to astonish the interviewer. Okay, so it's all there. Go there. They're for free. Take a look at them. Mark, what are your greatest strengths? Because that's a setup. And everybody talks about their strengths easily. And then the next question is, what are your weaknesses? They know all the vowels at a time. Okay? What we recommend, folks, for the weaknesses is the I used to technique. I used to not pay attention to time, and sometimes time flew. I used to not answer the emails on timely basis, and some of them came from my boss, and I was in hot water for not answering. But now I've made a commitment to look at them in the morning, noon, 3 o'clock, and before I go.
Something like,
Yeah.
and you get improved.
You got it, exactly.
To show that
You're showing a weakness which is on the way to be a strength. Exactly. And you pick up you said it. A small element. I mean, if we're hiring you as a director of operations, you better not say, I used to not be able to delegate. Duh. Okay. I used to not, I don't like managing people. Duh. What am I hiring you for? But if you picked on emails, if you picked on minor things, you've been working on it, and you still have some way to go. In other words, you are showing a weakness as one to be on its way of an improvement. Here's a couple more questions that I have for you. Describe your style of management. And we already talked about it before with a portfolio, right? If you had a choice of companies or positions, what would you, by the way, are these possible questions? What do you think? They are. What would you do? Exactly, okay? What company would you like to work for? What kind of position? The one that pays the most money. Hello, that's not the best answer, okay? A position that has future growth potentiality for me to grow and develop along with the company. Are you following? So you're showing that you want to be part of, so you're not just using that as what we call it a bridge position. Here's one that most candidates freeze. If I ask your coworkers or your employers, Mark, what would they say about you? And now, if they left in bad terms, you see them, they're sweating, they're changing colors. Oh God, how do I? Folks, I don't know if you know the legalities of this question. Anybody in the HR department? If you know anything about it? They cannot call your direct employer or coworkers to find out about you. If they do so, they have to direct a call to the HR department. And the HR department will say, Mark, yes. Mark Weinstein, yes, worked here from such period. All they could give is, what is it?
All they can say is.
Yes, position, start date, finish date, and nothing else. Was she a good employee? Cannot be answered. Even though, let's face it, if they want to, if you left in bad terms, here, I state your title, dates, okay, and then I might say, why are you asking about Mark? Are you going to hire him? Are you really? Okay, good. Did I say anything derogatory about him? No, I just asked the question, but the way that I asked it, I probably killed him. Are you following that? So, your reply, yes?
Sometimes those companies, they ask question to your previous company. They say, this guy, you're going to hire him again? That's the problem.
Yep, and they're not supposed to.
Or you could hire him if you apply again.
Oh yeah, would you hire him if he applied again? That's, they should not answer that question. So, the way that we suggest that this question should be answered is, I hope you do. Because what they're going to tell you is that I was a team player, a punctual, going on time, and give them reasons to hire you, give all the good points that you bring to the table for this new company. Instead of panicking, instead of sweating and changing colors, give them reasons to hire you. Okay? Now, another question may be, before we move on, let's talk about salary. Is that a possible question? Okay? How do you do that? Are you going to, well, let's see. Let's say that we have a director of operations. Sure, no problem. Director of operations. What do that position pays? Okay, no, let's set the parameters here. Let's say director of operations or some type of a manager that pays, give me an amount. 120,000. Okay. Now, you have the position, you're the company, and you have 120,000, you know that you have that budget. I'm the applicant. I don't know that. And you ask me, John, what are your salary expectations? Are you following that? In the book and in those articles, it says, the person who first mentions money loses. Rule number 1 written on stone. Are you with me? You all know this, right? So you know that you have $120,000 in your budget. I don't. But I'll go to these 2 websites that you see up there, or salary.com, a more simplified one. These 2 are from the state. And the night before, I can find out what the going salary is. But let's role play this now. Here's my interviewer. I'm the candidate. So ask me the question about salary. John?
What's your salary expectation?
Well, I just don't know enough. First question is a strike. Okay, I just don't know enough about the job responsibilities. May we revisit this in a few minutes after I know a few more about the company, about the job?
We'll already send you the job description. Look at it.
Ooh, now I know that I have. No, that's very possible. It's very possible. As a matter of fact, it's towards the end of the presentation, an argumentative interviewer. Now I have somebody who I know that does not mind arguing with me. So now I have to handle it properly. Yes, I did, but I just don't know the daily responsibilities. That's all I'm asking for. So what would be my daily responsibilities? If we can discuss that, we can always revisit the salary question. Can we do that? Sure. Now inside me, I say, okay, he's not that difficult of a negotiator. Are you following? Okay? Because I'm playing a game here with him. So 5 minutes later, he says, okay, John, now let's go back to this.
Let's go back to the same question about the salary. What's your expectation?
Well, I'll tell you. Well-organized companies have budgets for positions of this type. What is your budget?
We have a range.
Good. That's
120 to 160.
Thank you. I just got it from him. Thank God. Okay? In here, thank you, Mohammed. Okay? Please, and I'm serious. Okay? I just extracted the number from him. The person who first gives the number loses. Now I'll make the decision. 1 second. I'll make the decision if I want to work for 122, whatever your range was. Are you following that? Question? I'm sorry? Good point. Sometimes the application says, what is your salary expectation? Now remember, applications are usually electronic. And an electronic application in that field is looking for a numeric field. The suggestion that we've given and has never failed, plug in $1. And I'm sorry I forgot about your question before. Towards the end of the preview. I'll come back right away. Let me just close this. $1. By inserting a numeric field, the application will go through. Obviously, they know you're not going to work for $1, so during the interview, that's going to be brought up. Yes?
I think what he was saying is it's already mentioned, like for the state, it's outlined.
State is a different ball game altogether, folks. And state is very special, very unique, and between you and me, take advantage of it. What John brought to you today, folks, is very unique, and I'm glad that the organizers were able to bring John in, okay? Those are excellent positions, excellent positions. You're not going to get the $5 million mention that you may want out of that, okay? But a $90,000 job is not bad with all the benefits and so on. But in the industry, which is what I'm talking about mainly, you got to play the game. Okay, but you were trying to answer the question before about, tell me about yourself. No? You know, what was the question? I thought you wanted to say something and I apologize. Are you sure? Okay, all right. Okay. So now, I know that he pays 120 to 140, let's say, right? So now I make the decision. But I want you to stick to your guns and say, John, that's good, but I want a number from you. Go.
I need a number from you. I need an exact number.
Okay. Now I have to give a number. Depending upon how the interview has gone up to this point, and that's why I wanted to stall and get a little more time with him, if he is a kind friendly with me and open-minded, I'll try this. Okay, I'll work for you. Now, do you see a little smile that I have on my face? Okay, I'll work for you for a penny a day, doubled for 30 days, and whatever the total is by the 30th day, that's my base salary. And in case you didn't follow this, I'll start Monday for a penny, Tuesday 2, Wednesday 4, Thursday 8. I go home Friday with 16. I start next week with 32 cents, 64, $1.28, and we do this for 30 days. Would you hire me?
No.
Why not?
Because it's going to add up to a lot of money.
Really?
Yes.
Who would hire me for a penny a day? Now, you just agreed to pay me $5,300,000, sir. And because I don't want you to lose your job, what is your budget? That's what the doubling of a penny for 30 days is, $5,300,000. And because I don't want you to lose the job, okay, now what do you pay? Now, most likely you'll say, but you may still be a stinker. You might say, John, that was good. Okay, thank you. I enjoyed it, but I still want a number from you. Remember, you have gone to those websites. Okay, you have gone to salary.com, and there are all the different types of websites out there that give you basic pay, approximate pay for the position that you're applying for. Yes?
Can you ask for the highest limit?
How do you know what the highest is?
I already gave you a range.
If you gave me a range, I'm in flying colors. I got you right here. I'll get you to give me the highest plus, and you'll see how. But the point is, if you stick to your guns and you say, no, John, I still want a number from you. Okay, I have to have done my homework the night before, know what the industry pays, and then I have to give you, you all know stats, the upper quartile, the third or fourth quartile, and always give a range. Okay, so if I told you, remember he pays what, 120 to 140? If I said, I'm looking for 110 to 120, 125. Is he going to continue the interview? Why? Because I'm within his budget, right? So you immediately come right on top and you say, by the way, because now you know you're within his budget. You lowballed him in essence. You know there's more money there. And you say, by the way, that is the basic I'm talking about. To that, I hope you will add bonuses, fringe benefits, extras, and everything else. And you're going to consent to it because you already have 120 to 140. Are you following that? Now, let's presume for a moment that I mentioned his highest is 140, right? Let's say that I said 145 to 165. What is he going to tell me?
Out of my budget.
You're out of my budget, right? So most likely the discussion is over, right? Again, if you are way too low, I just showed you ways on how to beef it up and make more money. If you are too high, now you need to save the job and the interview and find out what actually they pay, so you make the decision. And now your reply should be, that's exactly why I didn't want to give you a number, because in my numbers, I've included benefits, extras, bonuses, and everything else. What is the basic pay? Well, John, we can pay 120 to 140. Now I can make the decision if I want to work for 120 to 140. But now I have a question up there. Exactly. Exactly. But again, remember, you have to get the other side to give a number first. Okay? And folks, most interviewers are not professional interviewers. They are sent there to interview simply because they know the job, they're managers, they've done it before, so they're not professional interviewers. So you can easily, if you know how to handle an interview, you can easily go on and get them right here. When you are in an interview, you should be able to eloquently answer the following three questions: who you are, what you would like, and what you can contribute to the company. I am an accountant, for instance. You'll have this, dear. Ask for the.
I'm a teacher, so
Oh, okay, no problem. I'm just saying, so, you know, listen to this. Thank you. Here's my card. In case they don't provide to you, email me. I'll get you a copy of this, okay? So, I'm an accountant. I would like to be part of your accounting team, and the way I can contribute to your company is by bringing in my transferable skills. Hello? Transferable skills? Meaning I learned something someplace else, it didn't cost you anything, that can definitely benefit your company and enhance your bottom line. But you got to be able to answer those questions, folks, eloquently and boom, 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 one after the other in the form of a sentence, okay? Types of interviews is what I have next. Does anybody know what the unpublished market is? The term gives it away, but anybody? The market where jobs exist but are not published. Folks, how many of you go to Career Builder and Indeed and so on for various jobs, job searches? Those are the leftovers. Most of them are not even for real. Most of them are not even true jobs. They just want to collect your information so they can sell your data to marketing companies and other consumers, stores, and so on, okay? We can show you ways on how to go and explore the unpublished market and be the first one to get to it before anybody else. Yes, dear? Volunteer work, what about it? Oh, absolutely, yes. Did you hear that? If you volunteer your time, weekends, late evenings or whatever, to various volunteer organizations, you're going to find other people who may be company owners, managers, and so on, and when they see the type of person you are, outgoing, helping, open-minded, team player, and the like, they might say, you know what, are you working right now? Or would you be interested in joining us so they can, but if they don't come to you, we have ways of exploring the unpublished market. Actually, for positions of $250,000 and above, where we charge a hefty fee, we tell them, pay us with a check, and we don't cash the check until they get the first 3 interviews. We guarantee them interviews or money back, no questions asked. Okay? And we do this by going through the unpublished market. We know where those jobs are. And to give you a hint, if you applied for a job and you sent your resume to the HR department, and he also applied for a job, but we got the president of that same company that you two applied for to endorse him and say, your name again? Shalof, okay. And now the president sticks a little self-sticky on the resume that goes to the HR director and says, check this resume and let me know. What do you think that the HR person will do? Will look at your resume, where he has another 500 of them to look at, or is he going to look at his? His. Because he has a sticky note from the president, and we get those, and we have ways of getting those. Okay? And that's the unpublished market that we're talking about. Why do you want to work for us? In essence, we addressed that question a little while ago because your company is a stable company. Now show that you want to stay with them, growth, opportunities, and so on. If you were to start all over again, what would you do differently? If you said, oh no, I would never come to this country again, I can go back to, they know you're not going to stay here, and I'm a foreigner myself. Okay, so I can speak on that like some of you. I think not all of you were born in this country, okay? Or, oh, the degree that I did, I wasted 4 years of college. No, don't show a disaster with what you want to do again. Okay, find something minimal, something miniature to your career. I would have started a little earlier. I would have found a job instead of working as a waiter or a bartender to pay for my education, I would probably find a job. I would have found a job in a company, so I would have that experience. So when I graduated, I would have that practical experience from the company. You follow me? Find something not that detrimental. Okay? Yeah.
Can you say, I wouldn't change anything, I wouldn't do anything differently, I'm very happy where I am, what I've accomplished?
Can you say it? Yes. Depending upon how it is expressed, it may sound arrogant. It may sound egotistical. Be careful. I mean, if you are over 25, 30 years old, you have probably regretted something in your life, and you probably would have done something different. Okay? But can you say that? Yeah. Well, honestly, to be honest with you, I'm very pleased with the career that I've chosen up to this point. And it's a good answer. I went to the right university. I selected from the very beginning the right discipline. I found a position with a company in my field, and I've been enjoying that all along. But justify it. Okay, show them why you're so happy about it. Okay, what are your short-term objectives? We talked about that before. Now, during the second interview, folks, the questions shift from what? Which one? The employment? Why are you seeking new employment? Yes, we'll skip that. I was hoping you wouldn't catch them all again. I didn't realize that. Okay, is that a good question? Is that a possible question? Why are you seeking new employment? Were you fired? If so, why? Okay. Well, a proper response may be, the company that I work for, if it's true, again, I don't want you to lie, by all means. And we're in a sacred place, and by all means, never, whether you're here or anyplace else, do not lie. Nowadays, with all the information that they have out there and the web and everything else, they can find out just about everything and anything about you. So do not lie. Okay? So if you happen to have been working for a fairly small company, tell them, I've reached all the potential height that I can possibly go to in my company, so I don't have any more room for growth, so I'm looking for a larger company. If you've been working for a large company, tell them what is the real reason why you're looking for. But definitely don't say money. Because I was not making enough, I'm hoping to make more money now. Because now the impression you're giving is, aha, so if you find a job that pays more than what we'll pay you, you'll probably leave us. Are you following? Money should not be the factor. Growth, development, opportunity, stability, these are the issues that you should be looking at. During the second interview, you got to be prepared to answer questions, open-ended questions. How did you do this? Why did you do that? How did you behave in that situation, and so on? Are you following that? Okay. During the second interview, now you're in with one foot. Not totally in, okay? And in the second interview, they'll probably bring in another manager, the hiring manager, your direct employer, boss, whatever the case may be. Now, you got to accommodate them. Now, in the second interview, if there are multiple people that you are interviewing with or interviewed by, that's not an easy task. Let me role play a scenario for you. I'm an applicant and I'm applying for a directorship position to manage a plant. And we have the director of operations, okay, director of finance, marketing, and union. Is that a possible scenario? 4 people interviewing me? I think it is. And now the marketing person might say, well, John, many times we run specials and we may need extra units on short notice. How can you assure me that if we hire you as the plant manager, you're going to provide those units for me to have them for the special that I want? How would you reply? What would you do? Anybody?
I'll have enough in stock to cover it.
You'll have enough in stock. How do you know what needs to be? That's a special we're going to be running.
I know the market and I've done my study.
Just let me know ahead of time.
If you said, no problem, I'll produce them after hours, finance director will say, uh-oh, time and a half. The union person will say, did you ask me if I want my people to stay late? I'll produce them over the weekend. Same thing too. Okay? What we suggest is pretty close to what you said. Well-organized companies have some type of planning. So if you could possibly, and I'll pay attention to the terms that I'll be using to see how you can definitely qualify yourself for the position. If you can possibly give me about a week's time, I know we have some idle time in our facilities. If I have about a week's time, I can produce those units through the idle machinery and people, so it won't cost any extra money. We won't have to be there the weekends, and you're going to have your units, and everybody's happy. Are you following that? Okay, but you got to know the tricks of the trade to be able to answer the questions like this. Networking, types of resumes, cover letters, salary negotiations, and portfolio folks are the next areas that we address. I was told today that we'll have half job seekers, half business people. So I'd like to give you a couple of business tips on how to become effective as a manager, because once you're hired by a company, let's face it, what are you going to do? Be stagnant in that level, in that first position that you got, in that first step? I don't think so. You probably want to elevate, right? And I've prepared a couple of tips that I'd like to share with you. Should we do that or continue with interviews? Do that? Okay, thank you. Yes, before we start.
I do have to apologize. I did take a second shift. I have to get going to work. Appreciate your time.
You got my information?
Business card, please.
A business card and a company flyer, so you can, if you lose one of the two, you'll always have it. Good luck. Anytime. Thank you. Okay, call me. Okay. The second segment, folks, for a few minutes that I've prepared for you is business challenges and suggestions. Because what we've seen out there, folks, is, oh, boss, we have this problem. Manager, we have that problem. That's not what we recommend. We have this problem, and that's how I recommend we should go about it. We have this issue, and that is what I propose that you should be doing about it. Okay? So I'll show you some business challenges that we have with suggested solutions. Basically, at this point, and with the short amount of time that we have, we only have food for thought, and I'll give you some strategies. And if you expect a crystal ball to solve everything and anything, that's not going to happen. Okay? Now, all businesses out there are affected by three major factors. We call them banks. The very first one is financial. Everybody knows about it. Universities teach. I taught at universities all the different types of business management, project management, marketing courses, and so on. And everybody concentrates on the business bank, which is a necessity. It's a must. Okay? However, I don't want to neglect you. What's up there say about that? However, there are two other banks, two other areas that most people neglect, especially at the C level. Do you know what the C level is? CEO. What is a CEO? Chief Executive Officer, presidents and chief executive officers. And those two areas, folks, are the biological and the emotional. If you are not biologically ready at all times to make the decisions that you should in your business, most likely you'll make a mistake. If emotionally you're not ready, the moment you walk into a business every day, again, the possibility is that you're going to make the wrong decisions. And yes, I'm aware of the fact that there is competition. There's also global competition, and there is direct competition too. But you got to pay attention to both biological and emotional, because biologically, if you are like that, trust me, you're going to need a lot of time for yourself in the business and not for the business, if you know what I mean. If you're stressed, if you're angry, if you have all the different types of situations that you need to handle in the business and you're driven crazy, again, you're not going to have the right mindset to make the right decisions. Your people are not going to be happy with you. You're not going to have the right environment. So now, even though it has not been emphasized enough, I hope you realize that the biological and the emotional are just as important as the financial, and that is what I'd like to stress tonight. Art Nielsen, in case anybody knows who the person was, for the ones who don't, have you heard of the AC Nielsen Ratings Company? The one that rates the different shows? Obama spoke tonight. Now, yesterday they had Comey, and they said so many millions of people. That's AC Nielsen Ratings that observes out there what goes on, and they give the numbers. It's a marketing company that has presence in 120 countries around the world. When Art Nielsen spoke, even presidents listen. He happened to be a good friend of mine, and here I'm having lunch with him in his company. And I mentioned that because I was fortunate enough to have learned from some of the best in the industry. And what I learned from him, folks, was, and here I have lessons from Art, quality. He knows that he knew, hi, come here, come here. He knew that I was teaching quality. He was saying, John, how do you define quality? And of course, me, the sophisticated professor, gave him all the different types of definitions and this and that, okay? ASQ has a 10-line definition. He said, John, forget about all that. You, my friend, he says, you know you have quality when the customer returns and the product doesn't. Forget about everything, anything else. How true, right? When the customer returns and the product doesn't. What is CO? You told us before. Chief Executive Officer. To him and me, from him, that means customers, employees, owners. And that is the order that we follow. Pay attention to your customers. Appease and please your customers. Next, your employees. I'm the CEO of the company, folks, and I'm the last person right there. Above me are those 40 associates that I have, and all of us are there to serve the customer. And that may be one of the reasons that we are somewhat successful instead of being CEO-driven. Actually, the other day, I had a $500,000 employee walked into my company, referred by somebody, and I'll tell you why he came over. He's looking for a job. And you know why he's looking for a job? In his company, there was a big order with a big client that was messed up, and the client had problems. They were trying to resolve it for a couple of days. The second day, the boss found out, and the boss walks into the office, gets into his cubicle and says, I want to see you in my office now. The CEO, the executive, the authority, right? The person tells him, I'm speaking with Dr. Smith about the product. I don't care, I want to see you in my office. Dr. Smith heard the CEO speaking like that. And he tells this person, don't worry about it, just go. And I'm sorry you work for a company like that. The person told him right then and there, I apologize, somebody else will have to handle this. I will not work for this person. He didn't go to the CEO, went directly to HR, submitted his resignation. Next day he was in my office. He says, I don't need that. True story, about 2 weeks ago. And we're working now with this person to find him another job equivalent to what he was making before. Why? Because that CEO was authoritative driven, and everybody, when he spoke, everybody had to drop everything. Drop everything. The person was talking to a multi-million-dollar account that he was trying to resolve. And he says, I don't care. Come to my office. Okay? He didn't even go to the salesperson that says, the VP of sales, didn't even go to his office. He went straight to HR. Okay? Now let me ask you this. What business are you in? The companies that you have worked for, you are in the pharmaceutical? In the pharmaceutical business. Anybody else? You are in the so you are in educate in the education business. You educate people, right? Somebody else?
IT.
You are in the IT business. What do you do? Design? There it was. It doesn't matter.
It was overseas.
It doesn't matter. Design,
Yeah, selling solutions, applications.
application solutions. I need one more. What business are you in? Somebody? Yes. IT. What do you do? Project management. Folks, the business you're in is to satisfy your customers in the best way possible, hopefully better than the competition, to elevate that customer to a loyal client via the pharmacies that you sell, via the education you provide, via the IT project management, via the IT solutions you provide. That is the vehicle that you're using. The business you're in is to satisfy your customer in the best way possible, hopefully to elevate that relationship to a loyalty relationship. Remember, a satisfied customer is still looking. A loyal customer will never leave you. A couple more things before we go. Time is up. 5 o'clock. Is it 5 o'clock that we're leaving? A couple more minutes, okay? If this was your business, what would you do? If you owned that school, if you owned that pharmacy, if you owned that project management business, what would you do differently? Can anybody answer that? Would you do anything differently than what you're doing right now? Yes, what would you do differently?
There are so many things that we can improve.
Like?
Increase salary, for example, to get more satisfaction from our employees.
Okay.
There are things in our hand and there are things that we cannot control.
Things, what would you do that you can control? What would you do differently? Things that you can control, anybody. If this was your, yes?
Well, like, I'm just thinking about, like, my own, where I work.
Sure.
Like, something that our boss could do is, like, build morale somehow. Like, meaning, like, we have, like, a really negative culture sometimes. And so, like, we get that negative culture because our boss, like, sometimes yells at us.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, if she builds, like, a positive culture, then we feel like we're doing a good job. Does that make sense?
Yes, but again, I'm not asking what the boss would do. I'm asking you, what would you do differently? Would you try to create a more positive environment in your cubicle, in your desk, and the people around you? Why aren't you doing it now? Think about it. Does it have to be your business to do that? If each and every one of us folks try to do a minor improvement, okay? Now, let me just close this by saying, can you save 20 minutes a day out of whatever you do in your 8 hours work? Do you find 20 minutes being wasted left and right throughout the day? What do you think? For a company that has 100 employees, do you know how much money that is? If everybody could save 20 minutes a day, it's over 2 or 3 employees, meaning $150,000, $180,000. Okay? Let me ask you this, and let's close with that. Can you come up with an improvement a month? One improvement per month. Can you do that? How many of you think you can do that? An improvement per month. Okay. How many people are in your company or were in your company before when you were working?
Yeah.
How many?
10,000.
10,000. Okay. An improvement a month. 10,000 employees. Do you know how many improvements are you talking about, folks? Do the math. My God, yes. Thank you. 12,000 improvements. Can you imagine if your company improved in 12,000 areas? But you're not talking about, with everybody here, such a big company. Let's say a 20 people company, a 50 people company. Can we come up with an improvement a month? And then an improvement every 2 weeks? And then an improvement every week? Do you know how much you can do? Folks, even if it is preparing your desk for tomorrow, instead of just leaving everything and anything up there, I'll organize my desk and have my computer and everything else, my notepad and everything else ready. When I walk in tomorrow, I'll do work right away. Okay? Folks, with Ryerson Tool Company, it's on the south side, but not as far as you are here. It's on 16th and Rockwell. I was with them for 10 years as a consultant. 6,000 employees, 3 shifts. Speaking of the culture that you mentioned, the negative culture, just about everybody had negativity in that company. 20 minutes before the shift bell rang, everybody was preparing their bags, preparing their stuff, to clean up the plastic that they had their food on, and 20 minutes were lost. The next person came in, now as soon as the bell rang, boom, they're out, they're ready. Okay, now the next person comes in, nothing is in the queue. They have to wait for another 15, 20 minutes. The company was not doing well. I observed that, and they came to the point, the CEOs came to the point to let, now remember, 6,000 employees, to let 10% of the employees go. John, it's your job to let us know which ones are going to be let go. You know all the employees. Now, that's not a good position to be in. So next day, instead of going out to lunch, I took my lunch to the cafeteria. I called every shift, and I spoke with them, and I said, guys, they're going to pull straws. I'm not going to give names, so they're going to have to pull straws as to who's going to be gone, but 3 and 2, 5 and 5, 10, out of you 10, one of you will be gone. I don't know who, but somebody will be gone. 600 people will have to go. Unless we can prove to management that we can turn the company around. How can we do this, boss? Now, when the job is on the line, immediately, how can we do this? Well, I've observed the 20-minute gap, no work before you go, and the other people who come in have to wait another 15, 20 minutes. Don't worry about it. To get the job going. 3 shifts, that's over 2 hours lost every day. Can we work up to the minute? And when the next person comes in, we'll work immediately, right on? Not even a second lost? Well, if that means our job, yeah, we can do that. I go to management, I said, if I improve production by 10%, can we save the employees? They said, we'll give you 2 months. I said, I need 1 month. Seriously. If they change their behavior, folks, you're going to see the results right away, okay? Within a month's time, the inventory, sales, revenues, and everything else went through the roof. Everybody saved their job. If anybody, I'm giving you facts, if anybody goes to Ryerson Tool, 16th and Rockwell, it takes 4 different blocks. Each block is a factory. In the southeast, they have a big plaque there, thanks to Dr. Calares for saving us, and there's a big plaque, okay, about this long, stating seriously. Okay, but these are doable things, folks. But it's management, as you said, that turns people away. Folks, nobody gets hired saying, oh, I'm going to be a good boy, I'm going to be a good girl for 3 months, and then I'm going to be bad. No, they see an ill-advised and managing management, and then they say, you know what? Why should I care if they don't? Okay. I'm going to have this presentation for you. There are quite a few things here that let me get to one slide that Jack Welch is another person that I worked with of GE, and he said, everybody, including me, the CEO, 10 days per year training. Not very many companies do that, folks, believe in that. Let me ask you this. How many of you are afraid or dislike change? Anybody? Are you afraid of change? Do you dislike change? Anybody? Raise your hand if you do. Well, change in business, in general. I just put some numbers here now, right? Now, how many of you dislike or are afraid of change in general? Raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. How many of you think that other people dislike or are afraid of change? Raise your hands, please. How many of you think that now you other people dislike or are afraid of change? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ooh. What do I have here, folks? Few of you didn't reply. What are the numbers that I have here? 4/15. Because basically everybody says, it's not me, it's them. I'm going to leave you on that note. Thank you. Stop by. Thank you. What I have for you, if you want, is a questionnaire so we can call you for a free consultation on your resume and interviewing and portfolio skills. If you fill this out and give it to me, you'll receive a call for free consultation either over the phone. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Give one to everybody. Give one to everybody, please. You have a free consultation. It's right here. I gave. Pens, absolutely. Here, take this one, and this one you may keep. It's my company's, you may keep. I'll get you more pens. You need more pens, anybody? Yes. Yeah, you can even keep it. It's my company's pen. You can keep it. You're welcome. Do you need a pen? You have a pen. Anybody needs a pen? You can keep it too. These are extra. This is not my company's, but keep it. You have a pen? Oh, you need one. Okay. Yeah, you can keep it too. You need one? Does it work? Yeah, it works. Write clearly, please, so they can read the email or phone number, so they can contact you.